Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. It is June the 25th. Glad you're with us. I am Jeff Bidwell. Coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to talk with the head coach of the Bradley women's program, Kate Popovec-Goss, after the Braves made a big leap in year 3 of Coach Pop's tenure there at Bradley. 4 wins to 6 wins to 14. So that program certainly appearing to be on the rise in the Missouri Valley. We'll talk with her coming up in a little bit. Yesterday, I got an opportunity to catch up with Ryan Miller, the head coach of the Murray State Racers. We will have that interview coming up on Friday. He is actually going overseas on a little recruiting trip on Friday, so wouldn't be able to join us live, but we recorded that yesterday. Some news and notes out of that we'll get to here in just a little bit, but Coach Miller will be with us on Friday. Coach Pop from Bradley will be with us here in about 10 minutes. Haven't done so already? Please head on over to YouTube, subscribe, like, share, all that good stuff. Search out Morning in the Valley. We've got all our past shows are up there. We've got interview clips, anything you would, it's all sorted out team by team. If you just want to check out on your team, we've got all that stuff there. So appreciate your support over at Morning in the Valley over on YouTube. All right. Headlines of the morning, and it is almost D-Day of sorts, maybe H-Day, the better way to put it, as the House settlement deadline to opt into the House settlement for teams across the country is June the 30th. So that is Monday, June 30th. Monday, June 30th. Could have done that math before we came in. 5 more days they have to opt in. And yesterday, it's sort of been trickled out. Some schools have already come out and were very quick. We're like, yep, we're in. Belmont did that. Murray State has done that. There were a few. SIU has now done that. There were a few holdouts and teams that, schools that we weren't really sure what they were going to be doing. Yesterday, our friend Jevin Redmond, the radio voice over in Evansville for the Purple Aces on the Aces on the Air podcast, got a chance to sit down with Evansville Athletics Director Ziggy Siegfried, and they talked about all things house settlement and so on. And really the most important component to that whole thing for the Aces was, are you guys opting in to the house settlement? Here is Ziggy Siegfried yesterday on the Aces in the Air podcast.
Yeah, so we decided, and we've already officially done it. We've opted in to share revenue with student athletes. So it's something that, we felt was important to evolve as the landscape changes. We never thought it's going to be easy, but we are committed to continuing to be competitive and one of the best mid-major conferences in the nation.
So there's Ziggy Siegfried saying, yep, we're in. And honestly, when we talked with, I guess it was with Luke Martin the other day from Southern Illinois, after they had announced they were in, and you're looking at some of the holdouts that, I say holdouts, teams that had not yet publicly declared. And one of those had been Evansville up until yesterday. And honestly, in the end, I was like, boy, if there's a school, one of the schools, like, I don't know, that maybe they're not ready yet. Maybe they want to see how it's going to go. I thought maybe Evansville was one. I was super encouraged for them to be like, yes, we are in and we're going to go attack this. Siegfried, was basically just like, look, we have the focus of this right now is we need to be, the quote was, we need to continue to be able to raise money. And that is every school in the country. But he threw a lot of support and flowers over at the Purple Rain NIL that he said basically they have gone from, and if I understood his framing, that they had like $66,000 a year ago in their NIL that went up to $250 this year that he was very excited about. He said when he was on a couple of months ago with Jevin, he said, look, we're trying to get to $350 to at least have some money to try to be able to retain some players. Because you've seen the last couple of years, they have really been hit hard on not being able to retain guys that have gone on to big places, and they may not have had a chance anyways. Ben Hummerkaus going to Illinois, and now Gabriel Posado going to Xavier, and it's just like that. Those are you probably don't have enough bullets in the gun to be able to hold off those schools from the outside. But he's like, look, I thought 350 would be enough. Now he's like, literally, we need to get to 750. We need to get to 1 million. And he said it's going to be hard, but that's what we're up against if we're going to compete for championships. And much like we heard Tim Leonard say at SIU last week when they made the announcement that they were in, he's like, we need people to come to games. If you're not going to donate, like, we don't expect everyone just to write checks to the athletic department, but you can help us by just coming to games and that being a push. But I have to, if I'm an Evansville fan, I am encouraged that Evansville is not only, they're not in it, but they are going to continue to push, and they are going to continue to get everything they can from a revenue standpoint to be able to share with their athletes, to be able to better that men's basketball program and all their athletic programs. But, men's basketball is usually the tip of the spear when it comes to this revenue sharing in the Valley. And so I was encouraged. If I'm an Evansville fan, I'm encouraged hearing what Ziggy Siegfried had to say. Please head on over all your podcast platforms. Just search Aces on the Air podcast. You can listen to the entire conversation with Jevin Redmond and Ziggy Siegfried. All right. The other component to the House settlement is Jeff Jackson, the commissioner, recently sat down with Harry Schrader, our good friend from the Valley Hoops Insider. And there was a couple news and notes out of that I thought were interesting. We actually got some dollar figures that basically the impact that the House settlement is going to have on the Missouri Valley Conference is that over the next 10 years, the way that Commissioner Jackson laid it out, he said, look, it's not costing schools money opting in. They're just not getting as much money. So they're not writing checks. They're just not getting the money they used to. And the money generally comes to the conference, and it's then distributed to the individual institutions. And that's money coming from the NCAA tournament, academic stuff, like whatever money comes in almost always goes to the conference level and then gets spit out. And so Commissioner Jackson said that this is a deal where this over a 10-year window, it'll be $40 million that the conference will not see. So basically $4 million a year, and then obviously split amongst the schools. And I'm sure it's probably not an even piece of the pie for everybody. There may be some variance, but you're looking at basically $400,000 a year schools aren't going to get. And that's what everybody has to kind of work around here for the next decade. Harry brought up a point with the commissioner saying it feels like we're moving towards a place where student athletes are going to be employees. And it feels like we're moving into that realm. The commissioner was adamant saying, absolutely not. He's like, we want nothing to do. Like, there's no momentum anywhere in the NCAA or anybody saying we want our student athletes to be employees, because that's going to open up all other complications. You're going to have unions, collective bargaining agreements. If you get under that employee umbrella, that's going to make things more complicated. But the commissioner did say that's one point, is that in talking to Harry, there needs to be some congressional help here to help the NCAA in this new era. Here is what the commissioner had to say to Harry.
Do need some legislative relief. We do need some safe harbor. We do need the ability to be in a position where we can enforce our rules without always ending up in court because we make a decision about how long a student athlete can play or compete in the college space, or we make a decision about what the relationship in terms of time should be between a student athlete and the institution. So the House settlement is the beginning of helping us get our arms around these issues, but it is just a step. It is just a beginning. We still have more to go, and a lot of that is going to be centered about whether or not we can actually get congressional help.
There was the commissioner, and that's it. We've reached a point where it's just like we are just going to every time the goalposts move at all, somebody goes to court, and it's just bogged all this down. Now you're having to rely on Congress, which is its whole other, trying to get stuff put into law. That's its own other level of complication, is probably the best way to put it. It's not going to happen overnight, but that's what they are looking for. The other thing the commissioner talked about was in terms of scheduling. Things are a little bit harder. We always have to wait almost till September before we get that conference schedule. In the past with 12 teams, and yes, it was an unbalanced schedule, but it was basically 10 weeks, 2 games a week. That's how you get to 20 games. So now with 11 teams, you're always going to have one random team a week that doesn't have a matchup necessarily. So instead of 10 weeks, you're going to need 11 weeks. There's going to be some buys built in. They have to work on some stuff in terms of trying to make sure there's equal rest for everyone. It's just a a complication to an already complicated situation, trying to get a schedule ready. So we will hopefully have a schedule sooner than later, as we know everybody is eagerly anticipating, waiting for that. All right, our guest has arrived. She is getting ready for season number 4 as the head coach of the Bradley Braves. And let us welcome in Kate Popovec-Goss. Coach Goss, how are you this morning? And welcome to Morning in the Valley.
Thank you. I'm doing well. Sorry, our internet wasn't working, so I had to hop on my hotspot. So we got it figured out, though.
We are technology is a beautiful thing. We're glad you are with us. I want to start with I have recently turned 50 years old. I have officially reached the phase of my life where I am, even with people I don't know well, maybe barely know at all, I get irrationally happy for people when good things happen to those people. And so 3 weeks ago, I was irrationally happy for the Popovec-Goss family when we got to see this little post on social media that, hey, we've got a new point guard coming to the family. First of all, congratulations on everything with that. And secondly, we saw sort of the creative rollout to your team. How many things did we workshop before we finally got to the, hey, it's time to roll the hard launch with the kids about that? We've got a new addition to the program.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me clarify. If she's a point guard, then we've done something right, because there ain't a ball handling gene in this family. I'm hopeful that she's a little more post player oriented and willing to elbow someone in the throat and go get the basketball. So we can only hope. But no, it's a super exciting time. Really, really exciting. It's been fun. I think the league has been really supportive. There's a lot of moms in the league. My SWA has 5 kids. And so that's a really good kind of camaraderie. And there's a big community in the women's basketball world of moms and coaching. And so that's been really amazing. But we were so excited to share with the team. Kind of timed up perfectly that when they got back in the summer, I was hitting my second trimester, which is kind of the best time to maybe disclose. And so we just were really excited and we couldn't wait to find a way. And so it was just fun to share it with them. And it's been just fun to go through it with them. We're a really tight-knit group. These are all players that I've recruited, and, we had a lot of retention. So they've been around. We've built a lot of a really good locker room. And so just to go through it with them, they're very protective of me. They are making sure I'm well fed, that I'm well rested. I think they're hiding behind it a little bit, because if I get a little too amped up in practice, a little enthusiastic, they're like, Coach, can you do that? I can do what I want. We're okay. Doctors approved. So it's just been really fun and a very obviously special time for us. This will be our first child. So we can't wait for baby girl. She'll be here on December 3rd. That's her due date. So I'm just hopeful I don't birth it on the sidelines, but hey, we're going to be ready for whatever. So we're really excited.
Tennessee's Kim Caldwell gave birth back in January to her son, and in the ultimate badass move, 7 days later, she's back on the sidelines. So yeah. Is there an entry strategy to the world for you, I guess, of
I don't know. I think we're going to kind of just see how things go.
Fair enough.
I think it'll be the ultimate battle, which I'm sure every mom that coaches goes through, where you want to be in 2 places at once. But I know for me, it's going to be tough to be away from my team, and I'm sure it'll be tough to be away from my future daughter. So we're going to figure it out. I do have a plethora of people lined up offering to babysit, to hold in games. I do have some players on the team already styling my child, which I don't know how that's going to go. So when we see baby on the sideline in different outfits every day. So no, it's exciting, but I know I do want to get back to my team. I think we've got a chance to have a great season. And but the great thing in these situations is I have a wonderful staff that I trust, that I know is going to step up and do great things. And I also have a team that really wants this. And so I think there's going to be a little extra motivation factor for when I do have to step away in those times, to, make sure we're playing hard for everyone and for each other and our newest post player.
There you go. Well, and listen, look, if the kids are worried about you getting amped up, all you need to do is just rebound the way I asked you to, just defend the way I asked you to, and then my blood pressure will be fine. This is a 2-way street. Just take care of it yourselves.
Luckily I'm pretty predictable, so they know what makes me mad. And actually the pregnancy has kind of flipped me the other way. I've been very calm, which I don't think anyone would describe me as calm. So, it's been great, but no, it's a great team, and I'm just super excited to, go through it with them, but also have a chance to coach them this year, because it's been a fun summer so far.
Getting ready for year 4, and it has been a process, building this thing brick by brick. 4 wins in year 1, 6 years in year 2, 6 wins in year 2, and then bang, 14 last year. Just what has flipped in the culture building, the program building, all of it that you have seen. All that hard work is now it's paying off on the scoreboard as much as maybe behind the scenes, and people don't know all the progress you're making.
Yeah, I mean, I think Coach Wardle, our men's coach, popped in my office in my first 2 weeks on the job, and I was like drowning and by myself. I had no roster. I mean, it was crazy. And he just looked at me and he goes, "If you look at my first 2 season records, like, don't look at them." He's like, "You're going to do it. You're going to get it flipped. It takes time. You got to do it your way." And I think really what changed is just the buy-in that we had. I think, being able to recruit to a specific style of play, and get the players that believed in Bradley, believed in us as coaches, and, players that, to be honest, I always say it's fit, that I felt I could coach the way I wanted to coach them. I think it always starts in the locker room first. Any coach is going to tell you that. And that's where it started. And I knew this past season was going to be ups and downs. We had 9 new players, but there was just an energy on our campus in our first workout. We were riddled with injuries last year. We had 2 ACL tears. We had 2 concussions mid-season that, hurt us. But in the same token, what I saw in this team was just a factor that they were going to keep fighting. And, you saw it kind of come together at the right time. You want to be playing your best basketball in February and March. And that's what we were able to do. And, I commend the leadership in the locker room. We had great seniors. I think specifically Soleil Barnes came in and completely helped to reinvigorate and create a culture of accountability, winning, and what championship habits look like, even though we weren't quite there yet. And that was a conversation we had. I said, "Guys, we're not going to be contending for the championship. That's not a realistic expectation for us this year. But what we're learning to do is how you build the habits to get there." And now, you put yourself in a position to just grow, like you said, brick by brick, game by game. And, for us, I'm excited to see what that leads to this year. And I think we're already, we haven't taken steps backwards. We're taking steps forward every day, and we're just trying to stack them. So it's been a lot of fun. We've got people coming back from injury. We've got some fun new faces. So I think right now we have the potential to have a lot more depth than we've had, and that's exciting.
First head coaching job. How different are you today as a head coach than you were 3 years ago walking in the door?
I think, I'm in a lot of ways, I think I'm the same, in a sense of just being heartfelt, being emotional, and being someone who wants to be myself in front of my team. I think that in the ways I'm different is you learn that, as coach, you want everything to be on your time. You want things to come along at your time. You have to understand there's a balance of push-pull, and that, there's a really big difference between expectations and standards. And that's what we're teaching our team right now. Expectations are the devil. Expectations aren't real. They're not built on anything. Our goals are built on our standards. And I think that the process, I always preach it. I had to learn how to really buy into the process, just like I'm telling my girls every day. So I would like to think I'm a little more patient. I think if you talk to my players and my husband, I don't know if they'll agree with you, but I do think that the one thing I've continued to learn, and when I've made the most mistakes, it's not when I've been following my gut. And I think as a leader, the only thing you can do is you can follow your heart and your gut and your instincts. And, you're going to make mistakes that way, but you're always going to be in a position to learn if you feel like your intentions were where they were meant to be. And so, I've definitely changed, definitely grown. And, I think for me, the biggest thing I've learned and I've always believed is it's always about the people. Always. Even in this completely changing environment of the portal and all this stuff, you have to surround yourself with the best people for you, for your culture, and for what you believe in. And I think we really have that here at Bradley with our staff and our team. So it's exciting and it's fun to be here every day.
In league play, your first year, you were 12th in scoring defense. In year 2, you were 12th in scoring defense. And in year 3, you were 2nd in scoring defense. To go from giving up 75 a night to 78 a night to 61 and a half. What in the world flipped in year 3 that you guys just, especially in a league that was that top half of the league, there were some teams that go out and score some points, and you guys were able to just hold folks at bay at worst and lock people down at best?
Well, I'm a defensive-minded coach at first. It's who I am at my core. I love it. For me, I'm a control the controllables person, and the basketball can be uncontrollable, but the one end that you have the most control over is the defensive end. You can run the best play in the world. The shot's going to go in or it's not. And sometimes it's like that. So for me, that's our identity. That's what we build ourselves on. So I think for me, it was twofold. A little bit was philosophical. I'm a matchup zone person, always have been, always will be. But in this league with the depth of the shooting, the systems that we run, we had to adjust our philosophy a little bit and really transition more to man principles. I think the second thing is we've been able to recruit to a defensive identity that I love. From year 2 to year 3, if you looked at our roster, year 1 to year 3 especially, we got a lot bigger. We've got size, we've got physicality. Those are things in the Valley that you have to have, but for me that are really important in our philosophy. And, the biggest thing is when I got 9 new players and I had a brand new staff in year 3, I consistently said, defense is going to win us games. Offense takes time. Offense doesn't happen overnight. The chemistry that you have to build takes time. And I also knew in this league, there's too many good veteran offensive teams. When you were looking at the makeup of our league, Belmont, ISU, Missouri State, it's just, they're old, they're good, they've been there, they've done that. For us to be able to compete and win games, it's going to have to be on the defensive end, which is what I want our identity to be. So that's what we focused on and worked on from the jump as our offense evolved. And, I think our kids, the hardest thing in coaching is to get your kids to believe in it. And there was just a belief in the gym when we were the team that wanted to defend the last possession. We were the team that if we were down 4 and we felt like we had to get 3 stops in a row, that was something attainable for us. And it's a pretty cool thing as a coach when they buy into that. And I just give so much credit to our leadership in the locker room and just the mentality, because we were not a sexy defensive team. We didn't lead in any prolific stats, shot blocking, steals. We were just honestly like 30 seconds. We were just going to guard hard. And right now, the hardest part is our team's excited. We do need to improve offensively, and I think we will. We have more depth. We're going to have the ability to play faster. At the end of the day, though, our defense is always going to be first. So in the gym, they got a reality check in our first week at the end of practice that we weren't going to play offense for a while until they bought into defense. And so, for us, it's just the mindset of it and continuing to build great habits. And I definitely want to shout out my staff, specifically Dershawn Cobb. He is an awesome teacher of defensive principles. He's played at the highest level. He's a fringe NBA guy. And I think he really came in and helped revamp some of our just defensive tendencies that we built in terms of our overall philosophy. And he just did a tremendous job helping with that.
Is there a benefit to, again, in a league that there are teams that can go score, that if you guys, they're zigging, and maybe is there a benefit to being the zag of like, we're going to be the defensive team? And look, you may not be able to be successful if we're going to be 11th or 12th in scoring offense, but if you can even get up to 6th, but you still got a top 2 or 3 defense, that you've really got a chance to cause problems for folks over the long run in this league.
Yeah. I've played and coached a lot of basketball. There's not many teams that are successful in March that don't have some type of defensive identity, and the same thing that don't have some type of offensive identity, right? Like there's got to be a balance. And for us, obviously, for me, I'm who I am, right? As a coach. And I've learned very, very quickly who you are and how you coach. You need to find those types of players because you're not going to change who you are. In my core, I was a blue collar, hit someone in the throat, rebound the basketball, block shots, push you off the block kind of kid. My mentors built me in that identity as a coach defensively. I coached, our Blizzard defense when we won a Big Ten championship at Northwestern, and we had the National Defensive Player of the Year on the roster. That's just who I am at my core. Coming into this league, I wasn't going to change that because guess what? There are people that are prolific offensive coaches that have prolific offensive teams, and they're going to be better at that than I am. I'm who I am. We are who we are. And I do think there's an advantage to it because when you can play to an identity and get your kids to believe in it, I always say basketball is who can execute their identity better in that matchup. And that's always the heart of the battle. And so I do think it's fun when you get a team that is offensive minded to find a way to be disruptive in that. And I'm sure offensive teams look at us and go, if we can disrupt them on the offensive end and they can't guard us, that's a lot of fun too. So for us, I do think there is, and I think it's just because everyone has an advantage when they're playing to who they are authentically. And I think that that's what our team has really found out. And for us, it's defense. And we've got to keep that mindset going as we, like you said, have to evolve and get better on the offensive end. We've got to make that jump into that middle of the pack of the league offensively in order to compete where we want to go.
You lose 2 of your top 3 scorers, but you've got 10 back. And in this era, that is a huge number to bring back. And again, in this building process, just how much of a cheat code is it almost to be like, man, we don't have to teach culture and teach how we do things, because the players can do that for the newcomers and so on. And we can just get rolling into what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I think I'm sure as you talk to many coaches, because there's a ton of turnover in our league this year. You know what I mean? Like we are, there is no more Katie Denebeers, no more Caitlin Youngs, Kendall Cheeseman. I mean, this league is incredible. And I think what any coach is going to tell you is you don't replace those players. There is no, oh, okay, we went and got this kid and she's exactly the same. She's this and that. You have to adjust a little bit. And I think for us, there is no replacing Soleil. We didn't go get a carbon copy of her out of the portal, and I wish we could, but we didn't. And also, even if we got someone with her talent level, I don't know if we get someone with her leadership and with her mentality and her heart. It's when you get those great special players, they're great special players for a reason. But I think what we have is we have a core that's returning. We've got some kids coming back off injuries. We also have some kids. Kaylin Nelson was playing off an ACL last year where she literally got cleared 25 practices before the season. In real time, you were seeing her figure out what it looked like to play off an ACL tear. And I think who she was before that injury, she was averaging almost 20 points a game for us. And, I think now she really has a time to get her body back, to find that pop and to understand how to adjust to what that looks like instead of having to do it when she's playing Murray State or when she's playing Belmont. And she's really taken that personally. So I think you're going to see some growth in players that are on our roster in terms of, they're not trying to be Soleil, they're trying to be the best version of themselves. And I think that's going to help us. But I think too, for us, we're going to have to shift how we play a little bit and have more depth. If we can have a balanced scoring line, I think that's going to help us out a ton, and we can play more up tempo and create off our defense. But to have this core is super advantageous. I think any coach will tell you retention right now, I think, is the best thing that you can have in coaching, because it's not a given anymore. And I think that our players, they had a little taste of what it was like to have success. And that's something that I think has really motivated them. And like you said, to be able to walk in the gym and have a player go, no, that's not how we guard a ball screen. You guard it this way. And I'm like, oh my God, you're exactly right. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm just excited. And it's something we talk about because also the standard isn't last year. We have to build on that standard. And so again, just having players that have been in the battles, that have been on the hard end of some losses, that have been on the really fun end of some wins. Now we've got to flip that. We're a team that our margin of loss, I don't remember what it was, but it was like a point. We were losing by 6 points, 4 points, 7 points, 8 points. It's really hard to win in the Valley. And when you look at scoring, there ain't nobody beating everyone by 30 every night. Yeah. We have to find a way to flip those losses that were by 4 points to wins by 4 points. And again, a lot of that is experience and just having been in the moment before. And that's something that's nice to have too.
To go from 4 wins to 6 wins to 14 wins. And obviously there is momentum in that program. Have you noticed that momentum on the recruiting trail at all? Is it maybe a little easier to talk to kids and oh yeah, Bradley, they're maybe on a little rise. Have you felt that at all?
I do. And I think one of the things that we've been able to talk about is our retention. I think that speaks to our culture, but I think right now navigating recruiting is just different for everyone. It isn't what it used to be. Kids aren't paying attention to the same things. I think right now you're trying to evolve your philosophy. Are we going to be a team that can rely on the portal? Are we going to be a team that relies on high school? How are we going to do this? And so I do think our momentum is speaking. I think people watched us this year and they saw something completely different. Even in our games where we, maybe didn't come out on top, there's just an energy. And it's an exciting thing to recruit to being a team on the rise. So I think it's certainly helped us. But I think at the core of it too, with all of us in the league right now, we're navigating the challenges of this ever-evolving world. And so again, I think for me to be able to say, wow, we kept 10 players allowed me to sleep a little bit better at night. And, for me, it's just always about finding kids who believe in Bradley. And that has been the core of my philosophy since I was at every school I've been at, but especially being in a school like Northwestern, which is a very niche place. And so that's our focus. And, the kids who believe in Bradley, I think, are seeing what we're becoming. And that is exciting. So it's definitely been a fun thing to talk about with our hopeful future Braves.
I see coaches on social media, and a lot of times it's, hey, maybe a motivational thing, or hey, we've got camp coming up and don't forget to sign up. But you put something out last month that got some traction that caught my attention, and it was just some thoughts after a weekend of evaluations on the recruiting trail. And it was kind of this, hey, 1 through 8, and it was kind of, in so many words, 1, 2, and 3 were all about, hey, shot selection is important to me when I'm watching you. And then the one that really jumped out was having an elite motor is not only a skill, but it is a separator. Everybody, and whether you're going in for a job, and in some ways you're going in for a job interview when you're on the recruit being recruited and so on, and everybody thinks they know what the bosses want, but to hear the actual feedback from the boss of, this is what I'm actually looking for. How much feedback did you get from whether maybe other coaches or AAU coaches or players or anything that, oh, this was stuff maybe I haven't heard before and is really going to help me in my recruiting process?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like, I'm a talker. My men's coach yesterday said, you got the gift of gab. I do. I've never really been afraid to say things or, whatever. And sometimes I find that it's what a lot of people are thinking. And so I think that was kind of the factor. And it was, as a coach, coaches were a community, whether you're a high school coach, an AAU coach, a middle school coach. And I think right now coaching youth has become such a challenge because it's become so transient. It's become status. And, we have amazing coaches that are trying to get the best out of these young players. And, sometimes I know when I talk to my players, I always say, like, I want my assistants to be vocal because I could say something and then my assistant says the same exact thing. And they're going to just be like, oh, wow, Coach Miller told me this and it was genius. I've been saying that for 3 weeks, but you know what? Oh, Coach Miller, they need to hear different voices. So I think for me, it was kind of a way to reinforce just what I believe in and what I see. And I do think in this crazy world, and I empathize with these kids because I didn't have to go through this in recruiting. I was a top 100 player, but I didn't know this kid had 20 offers. This kid was on her official visit. This kid had a graphic here. They're so caught up in the comparison game, and they think that in order to get recruited, you've got to score 20 points or you've got to. And the reality is that they're caught up in so much that you got to get back to who you are and what's at that core. And for me, it's always, like I said, control the controllables. So I think for me, just like, I want to also reassure these kids, like, you have to be yourself to get recruited at the highest level. You don't need to be anyone else. And I just think in this world right now, it's really hard, especially in our youth sports culture, which is in a really interesting place. And that was kind of my goal, is just to, like, hey, this is what I see as a college coach, and trying to have the backs of your coaches that are probably telling you these things, but also I want you to maybe read this and go, okay, I just need to go out and play and be who I am. And that's going to be good enough for a program. And, I hope kids can find a little motivation in that.
In this revenue share era, and money is, decisions are being made about where that rev share money is going to go. And obviously, men's basketball, football, whoever may have it, that's usually the tip of the spear. And then it trickles down from there. What I have seen, Bradley, Illinois State specifically, have sort of taken the NIL collective space, which used to be kind of a catch-all for everybody. And it appears to now really be into a more finer point of, we're going to use this collective and attack for women's basketball and try to better our program here to maybe make up for some deficits in rev share for you to be able to advance your program. The Be Brave collective, as you guys were pushing that last month, that process moving forward to benefit your program, how's it working so far? And sort of what do you see as the vision of trying to raise dollars, which is, in this day and age, you may not have an endless supply, but you got to have something in the bank to be able to try to compete.
Yeah. I was really fortunate when I took the job at Bradley. One of the things that I loved about it was the community of Peoria. I was coming from Northwestern, which I love to talk about all the time. That's my home, my alma mater. I met my husband there. Super special to me. But one of the challenging parts about being in a school like a Northwestern is being in Chicago. You're in a split market, and any given night, there's the Bears, there's the Cubs, there's the Sky. And so we were able to carve a niche at Northwestern. But when I saw Peoria, I just saw this town that believed in its college sports team, and Peoria bleeds Bradley. And, this is the type of place people grow up and they say, I'm never coming back. And 10 years later, they come back and raise their kids. And there's just this tremendous pride for Peoria and Bradley and the athletic piece of it. And that was something that was super exciting. Like, we increased our attendance by 50% this year. We've almost already sold out our courtside seats. Peoria was a place I felt if you build, it will come. And I think that that's been something that's been so beneficial for us in this time, is that people believe in Bradley and they believe in what we're doing. And I think at its core, Bradley is still trying to preserve what we can about the student athlete experience. And I think that that's something that's helped us with our collective, is that the type of kid that we recruit is the type of kid that people believe in. They want to find a way to help these kids be successful. And I think that that's something we talked about is, trying to raise collective dollars. For us, it's not about, I'm paying this kid to come win a Valley championship. These are dollars that can impact these kids for their lives and for their future. And also, this is the market value of a kid. It's not pay for play. It is a way that we are able to essentially help this athlete further. And, I just think that we're in a community that they really believe in the power of athletics, especially for young women. Our Be Brave Collective is founded by all women in the community. And they believe in what we're building as a program is going to help these kids beyond their time at Bradley. It's not just 6 months. All right, cool. Come in, roll out. It's something that's a little bit more formative and has a little more teeth to it. And I think that they really believe in our program, but also our young women. And they're just awesome. When you meet them, you want to be around them. You want your kids to look up to them. You want your young girls to see our players who have great GPAs and play their tails off and believe in this. And that's been something that I think Peoria is really unique in that, because not only are our kids like that, but we have people that come to get to know our players and build those relationships with them. And that's what I keep talking about with our collective, is this is a mutually reciprocal thing. Our kids aren't just going to take, they're going to give too. And that's been something that has been really important for us in trying to build this collective. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. It's not easy. It's not easy for anyone. No one knows what this looks like. We're figuring it out in real time. But I do believe in the fact that, like I said, I believe in people and I believe in relationships. And I've always believed that that is the most important aspect of our athletic background, is just that piece of it. And I think that for us being in Peoria, that's been really special, just to see the investment of the community in our players and the way that the players want to give back to Peoria too.
She is Kate Popovec-Goss, fourth-year head coach of the Bradley women's basketball program. Thank you so much for today. Congratulations again. I wish you nothing but the best of health and the most uneventfulness next 6 months. And I don't know how long it's going to take for baby girl Goss to get her first X account, but I'm looking forward to seeing the graphic with the first official scholarship offer for that 2044 recruiting class.
Listen, it's 2044. Dear God in heaven. Thank you so much. We're so excited. We're really, excited for so many things. And I definitely appreciate the time and obviously, you showcasing our program. And this pregnant mama is going to go eat, because that's all I really care about right now. So
I'm sorry to hold you up on that.
Appreciate the time. Go Braves. And thank you guys so much for covering us. And
all right,
we look forward to talking again soon.
Coach Pop, thank you. There is, we know not. Mama's coming through. We got to get some breakfast. I've held her up long enough, so glad she was with us today. Program on the rise there at Bradley, most certainly. We'll see what they can do here coming up in year 4. All right, moving on to back to our headlines of the morning as scheduling news. As again, I got a chance to talk with Ryan Miller, the head coach of the Murray State Racers yesterday. We will have my full interview with him coming up on Friday here on Morning in the Valley. But Coach Miller giving us a little bit of a schedule peek yesterday, as he said that there is no opponent named yet. We don't have a date yet. We don't officially have a location, but we believe that, well, he said, we'll expecting to be playing in the Field of 68 opening day showcase. Now, last year, it was the first day of the season. It was actually the first game of the season. Remember, Southern Illinois played the College of Charleston over at, I believe it's the Sanford Pentagon in Sioux Falls, Idaho, was where that event was held last year. Rob Doster, Jeff Goodman, and their group over at the Field of 68 put 3 mid-major games together as, again, 3 good mid-major matchups on opening day of the season. And again, that SIU, if memory serves, the SIU Charleston game was like 11 a.m. and it was the first standalone game for the year. And so Coach Miller saying, look, that's we're going to be a part of that. We have not heard anything from the Field of 68 yet about when the game's going to be played, where it's going to be played. And we certainly don't have the matchups yet, who the other 5 teams, if they're going to do 3 games, maybe they do 2, maybe they do 1, maybe they do 10. I don't know. They have not announced any of that yet, but that should be coming soon. Last year, again, just going by last year, the Field of 68 group put the games out. I think it was June 20th was when they announced it. So it's got to be coming up here soon. But that's another neutral site game against TBA opponent for Murray State. But you expect it on this platform with the Field of 68 bunch that it's going to be a good mid-major team at a neutral site. And again, for Coach Miller, who is from Mitchell, South Dakota, 70 miles from Sioux Falls. So this is a homecoming of sorts for him. So we will, again, have our full conversation with Coach Miller coming up Friday here on Morning in the Valley. The other game that has been released, and this has been a little bit of a difference for Murray State this year, is instead of just waiting for the whole schedule to be released at some point, September or sometime, they're trickling things out a little bit here. And so the other day they released, it'll be Mississippi Valley State coming in as the home opener. So the first week of the season now appears to be taken care of for the Racers. Monday, if it is how we believe it to be, Monday in South Dakota at that Field of 68 showcase against TBA, and then Friday, the home opener with Mississippi Valley State. As we have I talked with Coach Miller a couple weeks ago about this. He'll talk about it again when we have our conversation Friday. In terms of putting a schedule together and trying to, for lack of a better phrase, game the net and all the metrics. You need to play those quad 1, quad 2 games, but you need to go play quad 4 games, and not only quad 4 games. You need to play like the bottom 50, bottom 30 teams in the country and do your best to, he has a much more delicate way of phrasing this. But the bottom line is you want to play the worst teams in the country and you want to blow their doors off. And that is just going to help you metrically, whether it's in the net, whether it's in the Ken Palm. Mississippi Valley State last year was 3-28. They had 1 Division I win. And in the Ken Palm, out of 364 Division I teams, they were 364 in the Ken Palm, and they were 364 in the net. So past results do not indicate future performance, but if you're looking for, one of the bottom teams in the country that you hope you play well and you're able to hang a big number on the board, there's not a better team from that standpoint than Mississippi Valley State. It'll be the first ever meeting between the Racers and the Delta Devils. That is set for Friday, November the 7th. Other Murray State basketball news, as this has been in the works, and I think it's been done, but yesterday was the first day they finally made the official announcement, and that is that Brendan Mullins, assistant coach, has been elevated to associate head coach there at Murray State. He has a long history in the Valley, was at Illinois State from 2017 to 2019, went to Southern Illinois, worked under his brother Brian there from 2019 to 2024. Steve Prohm brought him into Murray State last year, was retained with Ryan Miller, and now has been promoted officially has been promoted to associate head coach. The news that I don't know how many folks are actually waiting on this. I don't know what the clamoring is like, but it's coming. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Pete Thamel from ESPN reporting yesterday that the NCAA is expecting to make their decision on tournament expansion in the next few weeks, whatever that means. And the number that was thrown out, we have talked in the past, going from 68, is it going to go to 72? Is it going to go to 76? And it seems like 76 is on the board. this whole thing, and I come at this from a conflicted standpoint, that number one, looking at it from the traditionalist sense, I wish we just went back to 64 because that was, that's my, sitting on the porch in my rocker, barking at the clouds, standpoint on life. But to expand to 76, as I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't know that I'm going to watch it. I don't know, I don't watch the first 4 games as it is on Tuesday and Wednesday. It's like my viewing patterns don't begin until Thursday. And this NCAA can say, we are going to make a decision. The decision is going to be made for them, and it's going to be made by the television partners. That's the bottom line. If the NCAA goes in and say, we're going to give you 8 more games or 8 more teams, which means 8 more games of inventory. So we want more money for our television package. And that is important and significant because then when you go through these NCAA distributions, there is more money to be given out. If the television partners at Turner go, CBS, Turner, True TV, all that, if they go, yeah, we don't see any extra value, you're more than welcome to expand the tournament, but you're not getting any more money. Well, now the 68 slices the pie. It's the same size pie. And now we've got 76 slices. It's not going to happen. It will not happen. I just do not believe that's going to be the case. So I would like to see expansion from a standpoint of, is that going to make it easier for 2 or more Valley teams to get in? We are morons if we think 8 extra teams means 8 more at-larges. It absolutely does not. But if it can catch 2, and we've got teams that are on the border for whatever reason and can't get in, and now they can, I will begrudgingly, for the greater good, be like, all right, let's do it. But it's all going to come down. This is all dollars and cents. There is no moral dilemma in the meeting room. There is no traditional. It is all dollars and cents. And that will be from the TV partner meetings with the NCAA. They will make the decision. And that is what we are officially waiting on. And maybe there'll be, maybe there's a compromise that it won't be 76. It'll just be 72, but 76 seems to be the number. And we'll have to, we will see how that plays out here over the next couple of weeks. It is almost time. It is almost TBT season. The basketball tournament, the $1 million winner take all event. Valparaiso has announced they will be fielding a team with some alumni called the Shield 219 team. They will be playing in the Indianapolis Regional, July 19th to the 22nd. It'll be a Butler at Hinkle Fieldhouse. They'll be playing Butler in the opening round of this 64 team event. The Shield 219 bunch organized by former player, former Stafford, Jason Karras. The other alumni from Valpo that are scheduled at least to be playing, Jabril Adekoya, Corey Johnson, Malik McMillan, Brandon Wood, E. Victor Nickerson. They got some other guys from some other schools out there as well to try to fill in the roster. But for you Valpo fans, that these games are usually somewhere on TV, whether it's, I think at the end they're on Fox. I don't know if they're on FS1, FS2, streamed, whatever the preliminary games. But July 19th to the 22nd, short drive over to Indianapolis, and a great venue to watch a game. At Hinkle Fieldhouse, see some of your old favorites from Valpo. Again, they'll be the 6th seed there in the Indianapolis Regional, taking on Butler. The other part of this that was, I guess, reverse engineered in a decision was we learned that a couple weeks ago, we told you that Doug Gottlieb, the head coach at Green Bay, was trying to get his team into the TBT, arguing that, look, if we can go on a foreign trip, we'll go from Green Bay and we'll just drive a couple hours north and go to Canada, and we can go play, professional teams up there, and that's allowed. Why, especially in this era of making money for your programs, why can't we go into the TBT and enter our team? Well, they needed a waiver from the NCAA. The TBT putting out their bracket yesterday was 64 teams, and the Green Bay men's basketball program not part of the 64 team field. So it was an instance, again, of sort of a common sense argument from Doug Gottlieb. Like, why can we not play in this? It is apples. It's the same thing, except we can stay home, basically. Maybe you got to travel a little bit to go to a site to go play. and maybe you only get one game, and that's the roll of the dice. But it's like, look, if we get to the end and we win $1 million, how's it any different from calling the car dealership down the road and they give us $1 million, or now in rev share, the university's just like, hey, here's $1 million. You're just helping pad the coffers, and of course, so much common sense hammered in there that the NCAA said, no, we can't let that happen. So no Green Bay in the TBT. Recruiting news on the women's side. Illinois State head coach Kristen Gillespie has picked up a commitment from 2026 recruit Kennedy Stowers out of St. Charles, Missouri. 6'2" power forward. She plays for St. Charles Lutheran there in St. Charles, Missouri. Prep Girls Hoops Missouri lists her as the number 10 overall player in the state of Missouri in 2026. She had Missouri Valley Conference offers from Murray State, from Valpo, from Evansville, from Southern Illinois. She ultimately chooses Illinois State. And doing the deep dive this morning, she received her offer from Coach Gillespie on July the 13th, 2023. It is just such a wild difference in the men's game. And I feel like I say this 5 times a week, the difference in the men's game and the women's game. And especially now in the portal world, that things just happen so fast on the guys' side. And yes, there's offers. It just doesn't feel like on the guys' side, you see a lot of offers made 2 years in advance, and then they're able to land the plane with the recruit. But you see it so much more on the women's side. And I can't even imagine how satisfying it is as a coaching staff to put 2 years of work into a kid, and it gets down to the end, and it's just like, all right, it's us or them, and it's us. It has to just be you're doing backflips for you and your staff to be able to get a commitment. Now we still have to get to November and get her signed, and we still have to fast forward all the way to June and get her to campus. So there is still 12 more months of work to be done, but a big step here for Coach Gillespie there at Illinois State, getting Kennedy Stowers. At Evansville, we have a signing for the 2025 season. Georgia Ferguson has signed a 6'3" forward out of Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. Again, she'll be an incoming freshman for Robin Scherer. This has been sort of a trend now for the roster this year at Evansville, as they have gone to the international markets. They have 2 kids from Australia. They have 2 kids from Spain, now one from Canada as well. And, at 6'3" and has the ability to step outside and shoot, certainly appears to be a good, solid addition there in Evansville for Coach Robin Scherer. And one final piece of administrative work today from a coaching standpoint. That is Wyatt Faust, another assistant coach at Murray State, who was promoted yesterday. Officially, the announcement coming that he has been promoted to associate head coach. He's in his second stint at Murray State. He was a high school coach at Murray High, actually followed Rochelle Turner at Murray High School, went to Louisville, coached for a couple of years, came back, was director of basketball operations in the 21-22 season, went to Buffalo as an assistant coach in 22-23, and came back to Murray for the 23-24 season. This will be season number 3 with him. So his 4th year overall at Murray State, but has been promoted as well to associate head coach. All right. That does it for this morning's edition of Morning in the Valley. I want to thank the head coach, Kate Popovec-Goss from Bradley's women's program, for spending some time today. And my sincere apologies again, Coach, to keeping her away from breakfast this morning. As Baby Goss says, Baby Goss gets hungry, you got to take care of that. So, but very much appreciate her time, and again, wish her all the luck and all the health in the world as the summer progresses. Thanks you for being with us. Friday again, we'll have my conversation that we recorded yesterday before he heads out of town on a recruiting trip. We will have Ryan Miller, the head coach of the Murray State Racers, will be with us on Friday morning. We're here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. If you haven't done so already, please head over to YouTube, search out Morning in the Valley, subscribe to us. The little notification bell will go off every time we go live. And again, we're sort of a set schedule here in the off season, but once we get closer to the year, we'll be popping up at all times here, going live with you as we cover the Valley all year round. here on the program. Have a wonderful Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you at 9 a.m. Friday right here on Morning in the Valley.